Hi and welcome to Darlene's Creative Studio. Today I'm going to be working on an envelope journal. I'm going to be using some of these ivory cards and envelopes. I also have some little mini envelopes here for little pockets. I have some sketchbook paper and I'm going to be using this digital kit. It is from Stacy Belts and she has a shop on Etsy and it's called StacyStories, and this is her butterfly kit. It has quite a few pages. It comes in two pieces. The first one has quite a few of the little, what I would call journaling card size pictures. And then the second kit has papers, full sheets of digital papers. And I've only printed out 3 of them so far. I'm just going to start planning out and just putting the journal together and then decorating it with some of these papers. So let's get started. So what I'm going to start with is 2 of the envelopes, and I've just grabbed 2 envelope kits, or 2 envelope and card sets. This was something that I had in my stock. Excuse me. These are 5 1/4 by 7-inch envelopes, and the cards are about 4 3/4 by 6 1/2. And these are what I'm going to start with. So what I want to do is create the outside cover. And if I put these 2 envelopes together to make the outside cover like this, by putting them together like this, it's going to be a very wide book, and I don't like them that wide. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit by measuring out. Sorry, I have a tickly throat this morning. It's been a while since I've made a video, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it back to 4 inches, and I'm just measuring from the outside to here, and then I'm just going to draw a pencil line here like that. And so that is going to be the width and height of my covers, and I'm going to do the same to the other one. All right, 4 inches, and again, just make that quick pencil mark. Right, and then I just take, this is a scrap piece of my mat cutting mat that I had cut up because it had a big warp down the middle. All right, and I'm just going to slide that inside the envelope, and then I'm just going to use my sharp knife and cut along there. Now you can use scissors as well. I just like to use my sharp knife and cut along there like that. And then I'm going to cut this particular one off. I just grab my scissors here. And we're going to cut these little flaps off. And now I have made this envelope journal before, so I do have a video on my YouTube channel on how I make these up. So I'm not going to probably do the whole process in this video, just kind of showing you the beginnings of it, and then as we start decorating it, we will record. So I'm just cutting those little flaps off like that. There we go, and cut that off level like that. And now what I'm going to do is slide these 2 together. Oops, that needs to be cut off a little bit. Slide these 2 inside each other. And that is now going to be the width of my book. So if I fold these in half, I want to get a 4-inch wide, 4 1/2 inch wide journal. So the center will be down the center of this, and I'll get a 4 1/2. Well, what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to make it 4 1/4 wide, because what I'm going to do is make a spine going down instead of just having a regular fold like this one where it's just folded over and sewn. I'm going to give it a bit of a spine like my travel journals. I'm going to give it a little 1/4 inch 3/8 inch spine down the center so that it gives it a little bit more room for the flip outs and the tucks and the journal itself. So I'm going to glue these together and then get my scoreboard. So now what I'm going to do, I've glued the two envelopes together, and all I do, I'm just going to grab two other ones here, is when I slide the two envelopes together like this, I put glue on the back of the first flap and slide it in and press it down like that. Press it down, and then I flip this over and I put glue on the other flap and then just push it down. So now that we've got this, and sorry for all the marks on it, I've been playing a little bit. Because you can't really get into these, and these are going to be pockets and they're very hard to get into, I'm going to cut them back a little bit. And all I've done is taken my ruler and marked from, there's a line here at the top of both of the envelopes. I've marked 1 inch back on both of these sides, 1 inch in from the edges, and 1/2 inch from the top. So it gives me this little angle. So I'm going to be cutting away from 1/2 inch, 1 inch, down 1 inch, and across, and then up. So 1/2 inch from the fold, where there's a little fold there, a fold line, and 1 inch there, and it's 1 inch back. And it's just going to give you, and instead of using my knife, I'll show you, you can use your scissors as well. You're just going to be cutting this back a little bit so that when you do put something in this pocket, you can actually get into the pocket. And then again, I prefer to use the knife because it gives you a straighter cut and it's not as hard to get into. And then we're just going to cut along. And again, if you want to, you can use your ruler. Let's do that. And we're just going to cut along there like that. So this piece will come out. Oops, that was a double one, that's why. There we go. So now we will have room to get your hand in there and put something inside the pocket. And we're going to be covering that up as well. So you'll be cutting a shape out and covering up this part of the envelope, and there'll be pockets and flips and tucks and stuff on top so as well. So we're just going to cut this little one off. There we go. So we've cut those two pieces off. So now, and this was a little wet when I folded it, so it's a little crinkly, but okay. And then what I'm going to do is take some of this background paper, one of the digital prints, and this is music paper with butterflies, and I've just cut it so that it will fit behind these. I made it 4 inches, so it's going to go about 1/4 to 3/8 behind this, and I'm literally going to put, and I want a thin piece of paper, I don't want cardstock. I'm going to slide this paper underneath like that on both sides, and this side is a little harder to do, but we want something in that background where we're going to sew on our signature, our little booklet. So we're going to be putting that in there. And I normally, what I will do is just put a little glue on one side and tuck that under, and then you have to curl this side up and put it underneath. So I'm going to get started on that. Okay, so I've got my first piece in there, and I'm using Fabri-Tac only because it gives you a chance to slide it around a little bit once you tuck it underneath the flap. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. I'm going to put glue on the envelope part, not on the paper part, and then I'm literally going to be curling the paper up and sticking it underneath the flap like this, and then rolling it out. And the glue is actually on this part, and you don't really need to put glue underneath here because you're going to be tucking it in and it won't get caught. So you literally want to put a little bit of glue down the center. And again, I'm using Fabri-Tac because it gives you a little bit of slide. And then I'm going to curl the paper, tuck it underneath those little pieces, and then just slide it underneath like that. And then you push down the center pieces and it'll hold it there. So again, you don't need to glue underneath there because you're just tucking. It won't matter. You won't be pulling it out. So there is my background paper. So I'm going to be covering this up as well, but I wanted something in the background so that you don't see that. So while we're waiting for that to dry, before we bend it and put back in our spine, I'm going to be covering the fronts. Now I am going to be using cardstock for this. These envelopes are fairly flimsy, and for a journal cover, you want it to be somewhat sturdier. So I am using some scrapbooking paper that I had in my stash. It's just a floral scrap piece that I had. And I'm going to be cutting it down to fit on the front of this cover. And I want it to be, this is 4.5, so I want it to be about 4.25. I want it to be 1/8 smaller than this. And I'm going to distress the edges of this with some distress ink, which I'm just going to grab real quick here. Oops. I'm going to distress my edges first, all around the outside of this and on my seams here. So I'll be doing that, and then I'm going to distress around the edges of this, and this is actually going to be going on the front and back covers like this, like that. So I will have some distress ink on there as well and on the front of this, and then I will be able to decorate with some of the images from the kit. I just find this will make the envelope a lot sturdier, and this will be a good background to start with the butterflies. So I'm going to go ahead and distress my envelope. So I've distressed my envelope. I'm just going to move this board out of the way here. I've distressed the envelope with my brush, and because I've already put my score lines in for my spine, I just rub the brush over it and it just darkens those lines. And then I've distressed the edges of my cardstock, and I'm going to glue these on right here. See, it covers up all this envelope piece and everything, so you don't see that. And then the spine shows up because of the creases. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those on. And again, I'm only using the Fabri-Tac because it'll glue faster and I can continue on to the next stage. If I use the art glitter glue, it doesn't dry as quickly, and it's tougher to fold things and move things around because it's still wet. So I'm just going to glue this one on. And the nice thing about using the digital kit is you can use up some of your scraps of other things with it. I'm going to try and use most of the kit in this for decorating it. And then when we flip this over, we have these little pockets. And again, I'm going to be adding some flips and tucks and all that kind of stuff, but I want to add something because this is very flimsy for a pocket. I want to add something to the outsides of that. Let me see if I might have enough left over for this, and I might be able to put it, yeah, on that side as well. These are just scraps that I had left over, so I'm going to go ahead and add those on, and that will just give my pocket a little definition. And again, I'll just distress the edges on the inside. I'm not putting a lot of distress ink on this. I just want to give it a little bit of color. Okay, so this one is 3 5/8. So I think I'm just going to add that one on there. And that should be okay. Because like I say, I'm adding some other things on top of this. I'm just putting this on for weight for the envelope. So we'll distress that really quickly, and then we'll glue that on, and that will just cover up. And I'm going to cut back my opening a bit. So we want to distress those little tops of the right, and then this is going to get glued on here, and we want to mark our opening again. So I'm going to be adding this on and then making my opening as well, which is, we'll go from 1 inch here, about there. That didn't make a mark, so let's try it again. There. All right. And again from there on that side, there. So we're going to be cutting down toward that 1 inch, and I'm going to go a little bit on the inside of that mark because we want to go below the 1 inch mark, right? And then we just put that one on there like that. And see, I want to cut these back a little bit. And again, I'm just going to use my pencil mark and go like that. And go like that. And we'll get these set up the way we want them. There. Like that. And that will go on there. So we'll distress those insides. And we'll distress the insides of here. And we're going to glue this guy onto there. And we're going to do the same thing with this one on that side. Okay. So I've gone ahead and cut out all the little bits and journaling cards and images that were on in her kit, in Stacy's kit. And then I've added 2 small envelopes, and I've tucked the flaps underneath the scrapbooking paper before I glued it on to the inside pockets. So these are just 2 small little envelopes that I had, and I've distressed around the outside. And I've taken some of her images, and I think I'm going to use this one. And I've distressed around the edges, and I'm going to put that one on there. And the reason I have, it doesn't look like it fits perfectly, I'm going to put a little tiny pocket or something on the bottom of this picture, so I'm not too worried that it doesn't fit absolutely perfectly. So this one is going to go on here. Just love this little fairy, butterfly fairy. We've got that one, and then I've just taken one of her little butterfly cards, and I'm going to put that on the other side. And again, I've distressed around the edges. Now, I've printed these on just photocopy paper, but I use 24-pound photocopy paper, not the 20-pound. I find the 20-pound is too see-through and too light, and you can see images through it a bit. So I always use 24-pound. All right, so we're going to put that one on there. So we've got those 2 there, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those in a moment. For the outside cover, I'm just going to flip this over. I've taken one of the butterfly images. I really liked this one, and this is just some brown cardstock, and I've gone ahead and glued it and distressed the edges and glued it to the cardstock. And now I'm just going to go to my trimmer and trim that up, and that's going to be my front cover. And that is normally how I do my trimming so that I get straight edges. And then I'm going to put this on the front, and I still might put a little piece of fabric behind that, and then I'm going to put maybe a little book plate underneath. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do some fabric. So let me go grab some fabric. Okay, I grabbed a piece of material, and I've just ripped it down to size, and that's going to go on first. And I just took my distress brush and kind of gave it a little bit of distressing around the edges. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the front cover because it's hard to put it on the fabric. So we'll just give it a light, just enough to tack it down, and we'll center that. on our front cover. I can go over a bit to the left. There we go, kind of like that. Give it a little roll like that. And then we've got our little little plate that we've made, and that's the brown cardstock and one of the images, and we're going to glue that on. And this was just a piece of brown scrap cardstock that I had in my scrap bin. All right. So we're going to add this guy, and I want a little bit of the fabric to show at the top there. So I will make sure it's down enough. And just give it a roll. Like that. And then I've taken one of my book plates, and I always print out the word journal on the end papers from old books. I save those and I put them in my printer, and I print out the word journal. So I've cut it off and I've glued it to the inside of the book plate. And then I just took a scrap piece of the scrapbooking paper that I've used for the cover, and I cut it a little bit bigger than the book plate, and then just cut little corners off to make it look like a ticket sort of thing. And that's going to sit down here just underneath. So I found when I put the book plate on there, it looked a little too thin and floating on its own. So I just added the scrapbooking paper to give it some, to make it stand out a little bit more. And we're just going to center that by eye, my lid on my glue. And we're going to push that down onto the front. So there is our front cover. Now, if you wanted to put the book plate and do the cover first before we did the inside pockets, you'd have a heck of a time trying to get these little book plate feet, the brad feet, to go through. So it's easier to put it on a piece of cardstock or something that you can have the little feet come through, and then glue it onto the front. So there's our front cover. On the inside, we have our two little envelopes, and we have those little images there. Now I am going to put something on the bottom of this. I might just take a piece of the cardstock. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for that. But on the other side of these, I want to cover up the backs of these envelopes. I was going to make it so that it was a tuck spot and you put a card in like this. But what I might do is cut the top off and make it so that the card goes in this way. So it's easier to get access to the card. So all we're going to do is cover the backs of these envelopes. And I think I'm going to use this, or let's see, maybe this one. And we'll put those beautiful butterflies on there. So I'm going to cut this out into, how wide is this envelope here? 3 1/4 inch strips. I'm going to cut these out, these two butterflies, and these will be glued onto the backs of the envelopes. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I cut this little pieces off the sides of this background paper, and I cut it to 3 1/8 by 5 1/8, and this is actually going to go on the back of the envelope like that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on just the one edge of the paper, right along the edge, like that. And then the rest of the glue I'm going to glue put onto the envelope, because I know where the envelope is and I don't want to put any glue on that opening, right? So we just want to do the envelope and then down the one left-hand side, because what we're going to do is when we put this on, you want to seal that left-hand side so we can stick something down into the pocket. There we go. And I'm going to end up cutting the top off so that I can make it a top pocket. So again, I'm just going to do the one edge. That down there, and then I'm just going to do around the edge of the envelope. You want to make sure we don't put any glue there because we're going to be tucking something in there. And then we're just going to lay this guy on top of the envelope like that. So there we go. So the backs of those little pockets are now covered, and we're going to put something on the bottom of this. And this is the bottom half of the image where the butterflies were. Oops, wrong side. So this was the bottom half of the page, and then the butterflies were up here. So I'm going to use these pieces to decorate the bottom of this little piece. So I'm just going to cut off a little strip, and they're going to both be the same. So let's say, I'll measure from this one because he's the shortest one. We can even make these into little pockets if we want to. So let's say, let's do 2.5. Let me cut these to 2.5. All right, oops, that's the wrong one. This one, this way, this way. Can't remember which side, this side. Okay, so we're going to make that into a little pocket. And all I did was I left a little bit extra because I want to turn up about 1/2 inch and glue that on like that. So I'm going to glue it down the sides and then on this little flap, and we'll cut a little thumb punch under there. And I'm going to make it a little bit shorter because I want to be able to see the fairy. Let's just cut that a tiny bit shorter. So that will go there on the bottom of that one. And I'll cut a little thumb punch out of there with my thumb punch. Like that. And that will just go on the bottom there. So we'll have a little pocket as well, and we'll distress these edges. Like that. And I'm going to do along the 2 sides just a little tiny line. Like that. And I think I'm going to angle these little corners here just a bit. And then across that little flap like that. And let's put him in right at the bottom here. Like that. Make sure I'm in the picture frame, sorry. So we've done along the edges here and on that bottom flap. So now we have a little pocket that we can put something in there as well on the front. And then I'm going to cut these tops off, and you can just use your cutting mat and your knife. And I'm literally just cutting across the top of the picture like that. And now we have an envelope this way. And we can put a card in there with a tab sticking out the top. So we've got that one. I'll put my lid back on. And I'm just going to put the pocket on the bottom here. I don't know if I want to put a pocket there because I'm going to cover up that butterfly. And he's awfully pretty. So I don't think I will for that one. Maybe I'll put it on the other side. So I'm just cutting that little strip off the top. And now we've got that as a little pocket. Like that. Now I want to put something on the back cover as well. And I've got some really beautiful, I'm going to use these little guys. I thought this lady was really pretty. I've got the butterfly. I've got another one of these. And maybe I'll use that just to keep it cohesive. And I will, don't know if I'm going to use a brown piece of cardstock behind it or not. I might. I just like that look. I love these butterflies. I'm just going to trim this up and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, before I add anything to the back, I thought what I would do is start working on the little booklet that goes on the inside. And this is just the card that came with the envelopes. Excuse me. And all I've done is cut it back to 4 and I believe it's 4 1/8 or 4 1/4, 4 1/4. It was already the height that the card was, and I just cut it back to 4 1/4. And that's going to be my little booklet that goes on the inside. And I've just taken 6 pages of sketchbooking paper. It's nice ivory color. And I'm going to, here, I'll use my, crease those really well. And then I'm going to slide them inside, and it's just a little bit down, about 1/8 of an inch down from the top. And then I'm just going to grab my pencil and mark my papers like that. And then I'm going to take my blade and my knife and my ruler, and I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch on the inside of that line because I want the paper to be a little shorter than the book. And I'm just going to cut the papers to fit. Okay. So again, there's my line. I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch into the inside of that line and cut my papers. So we cut it off. So now when I put these pages inside the booklet, they fit perfectly. So I thought before I decorated the back, let's decorate the front of this little booklet, because we might want to use this on the front of the booklet. I haven't decided yet. Let's look through some of these other little bits that she's given us in our digital kit. This is Stacy. Let's see what else we've got. I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. So I definitely want to use these 2 little tea cards or little advertisement cards. We've got this lady. We could put her on the front cover. She's very pretty. There's so many different. I want to use some of these for journaling cards as well. So these will be used for little journaling cards. So I'll set those aside. We've got some music paper. We've got, that's I think from a music book. Oops. That's pretty as well. I'm going to keep that one aside. I like that one. And her. That's really pretty. Maybe we'll make that a card as well. And then this is a postcard. And I think I'm going to cut that one down a little bit and make that some kind of a journaling card as well. Oh, we got this one. This is the other one I was looking at. Well, that one's pretty. For the inside of the book. And then maybe put her on the back of the little booklet. I think I might do that. And then I've got this one. It's almost too colorful for what I'm looking for. Yes, I think I'm going to use these 2 for the booklet. We'll save this one for something. So we're just going to distress these, the edges of these, just lightly, not a lot. I just want a little color on the edges to make them pop out a bit. Just a smidge. A smidgy. Okay, and then that one will go on the front cover there. I like that. I really like that. That one's pretty. So we'll go ahead and glue that guy on. I'm just wondering if it needs some something behind it. It's kind of got this black cardstock. Let me see. Just makes it stand out a little bit more, but I don't think I need black. Let's try the brown. Okay, so I've added both of these to a little piece of brown cardstock. And I took the large sheet with the Victorian floral print, the black and white, and I just decided, now you can print that out, that image out on cardstock and make that your cover for your little journal, which as I'm gluing it on, I glued it onto the inside. I didn't want to waste the paper. I wanted to use the paper for sure. And I didn't want to waste the one I'd already printed. So I've just glued it to the inside of my card, which came with the envelope. But if you want to, you can print this image right onto a piece of cardstock, and that would be your outside cover. I'd fold it the other way, and that would be my outside cover. So this is now my little journal on the inside. There's my sketchbooking paper. And then for the outside, I'm going to add these little butterflies, ladies, to the outside of my little booklet. It's funny when you're making something and you're putting it together, you come up with the idea afterwards, like printing that on cardstock. So I always try and make little notes so that when I go to make another one, I would say to myself, if you really want that image as the cover, print it out on the cardstock and just use the cardstock rather than the note card. But again, I'm trying to use up some of the stuff that I have in my stash. I'm just going to take that little piece out of the inside there. I'm trying to use up, you know, the cards and envelopes that I have in my stash. So that's why I am not going to print it out and have it on the cardstock. I want to use up that card that came with the kit. And then on the back, we're going to add this lovely lady. Now when I start to finish the tags and the tuck spots and all that other stuff, I want to get this little journal in there first because I want to make sure that nothing that I put on the inside of this is going to interfere with the journal opening and closing and all that kind of stuff. And I've learned from my mistakes that if you don't do that, you're going to find you have issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I'm going to sew this little journal. I'm going to poke some holes and I'm going to sew this little journal into, poke some holes into that and sew this into the inside of this little journal like that. So we have our little inside of our journal, and then I'll start working on adding a few more journaling cards and little pockets and that type of thing. I want to add another pocket in there, I think, and some tags. So I'm just going to go get my punching awl and my thread and my needle, and I will sew this into the journal like that. Okay, I've gone ahead and sewn my little journal with the sketchbooking paper into the spine of my cover. So there's my stitching there. Now, if you don't want to show that stitching, you can add a pretty little piece of lace onto the spine there. I can grab some lace and we can do that as well. We can do a thicker one like this, where we can have it go down the center and then come around the sides a little bit, like that. Or we can just do a thin piece to cover up the stitching. And that would just go down the spine. That one's a little bit thicker than the spine. I think we're going to have to go with something that's a little wider and then just push it down over the sides. So I will put that on there. Oops. So cut that guy off. Like that. And we'll grab some glue. And we'll just, and this will help strengthen the spine a little bit as well. So we're just going to put that down the edge and make sure I got it the right way up. I don't think it really matters. And we're just going to glue this onto the spine like that. We'll let that dry a little bit, and then I will glue the edges over to the other side. And then just put a little bead of glue right on the book itself. And then I'm just going to roll it over and push. Make sure I'm in the camera. So there we go. And we're going to do the same thing to this side. A little bead of glue along the edge of the book. Put my lid on my glue. Stand it on its edge, give it a good push, and then roll it to the front. And then just push. And there's the back, and there's the front. There. So now you've got your spine covered up, and you don't see the stitches. If you can just leave it bare if you don't mind the stitches. And I'm just going to let that dry, and then we're going to move ahead with making some journaling tags and stuff for the inside of the journal. Just going to trim this top piece off a bit. There we go. There. So there's the cover with our word journal. We're going to put something on the back. You've got our one little flip there. This is our little journal with our sketchbooking paper in it. And then this is another little pocket. And then there's another pocket here. So we'll keep going. We'll add a few more things. I'm just going to let this dry a little bit, and then we'll get started on the next part. Okay, let's see how far we've gotten here. So for the inside, I took one of the little printables that were part of the kit, and I just punched a tag with my tag punch. And first I glued it to a piece of thin cardstock and the image, and then I just punched it with my tag. So there's cardstock on the back, and there's the image. So that's going to go in this little pocket here. And then for this pocket, I cut one of the cards that came with the kits, the envelope and card kit. I also punched some tabs out of the scrap piece of paper that I used for the covers and the insides here. So I made a whole bunch of little tabs. And then I stamped this one with a butterfly and added one of the images from her kit. So that is actually going to go inside this little pocket. Oops, let me just, and I might punch a thumb hole in that one. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to make some more of these. This is going to be another journaling card. And again, I've just used one of the cards that came with the envelope sets. I added a tab to the top, and I just took one of her images and put it behind on some brown cardstock. And then I've just used some photo corners so that you can take that piece out. You can write on the back if you want to, and then you can write on both sides of the journaling card. And that just slides into the front. And then with the little journal in the middle, I've added a little tiny piece of lace across the front here and across the back, just to give that a little bit more oomph. And then on the inside here, I've created a little pocket and used one of her digitals, and I glued it to the front of the pocket. And then I just took a tag that I had in my stash that I cut out of scraps, and I used one of her little digital images and just cut it to fit on the inside of the tag. So that's going to go in there like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make the pocket. And for this one, I've just used a piece of cardstock. I just measured the image that I had, and then added 1/2 inch to the two sides and the bottom, cut it out, and then scored it 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then cut on angles those two little corner pieces and at the top there, and folded them in. So those are your little flaps that you're going to be gluing so that you can stick something in there. If you just glued the edges straight, it would be really tough. You'd only get a really thin piece of paper in there. So I used this as my measurement and then added the 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/2 inch, and that's going to get glued on the front. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And make the other pocket for there. So this is going to get glued onto here. I'm just going to flatten this out so we can get a nice, there we go. So that's going on there. And then I'm going to add glue to the flaps. And then glue to the bottom flap. And I always put my sides in first and then flip up the bottom one so that when you put it in your book, when you're putting your tag inside the pocket, it doesn't hit that bottom flap. So it should be on the outside. And then for the tag, again, I've just taken the image, the digital image, and my tag is 2 inches wide. So I'm literally taking, I'm just going to grab my pencil here and show you. I'm taking the images that I want in the center of the tag, so it's going to be these guys down the middle, and I put my ruler on it. So there's my 3-inch mark. It's right in the center of that moth's body, and then I'm going to go 1 inch over and mark there, and 1 inch over and mark there, so that I have 2 inches from the center. Now I can use a center ruler, but I can't find it right now. So just put one of the inches right in the center and then go 1 inch to the left and 1 inch to the right. And I'm going to cut this out with those marks that I made. And on the other side, it's just 2 inches. There we go. And then what I did for this one, I think I cut I cut a little bit off the bottom. And then, of course, I like to round my corners on a lot of things, so I rounded the corners. And then this is just going to get, it's going to have to be shorter, isn't it? Oh, this tag must be shorter. Hold on, let me just double check. Oh, it's the same size. I guess she's printed one's bigger than the other. Okay, so all I'm going to do is cut the top off here. Let's see how that looks. That's not too bad. I'm just going to make it a little bit thinner. And curve my pocket there, or my corner there. There, that's a little better. So we're going to glue that on that one. And again, the Fabri-Tac gives you a chance to move things around a little bit. And that's the only reason I use it when I'm doing this. So let's put him back in there. We've got him to go in there. Let me flip that over. So again, I added a little lace to the bottom of this. We're going to do this card. I'm going to cut it off at the top. And again, I'm going to round out my corners. Oops. That one didn't come out very nicely, so let's just trim that off. And then what I used for that one, was the butterfly set. I'm going to glue one of the tabs on first. And center that, just eyeball it. Right there. There's my tab. Then this is going to go on the bottom there. But what I did was I stamped a little butterfly. And I always keep a scrap piece of paper handy. So I try the stamp on a piece of paper just to make sure it's printing fully. See how it's not printing fully? I want to make sure I have enough ink on there. And then I'm just going to push him on there. So we have a lovely butterfly. And then I'm going to glue this to the bottom. go. And I'm not going to put that in. I'm just going to let that butterfly dry a bit. So he'll go in that pocket. So I'll set him over here. And then this card here, let's just move this out of the way. I measure the center of my card. So this is a 5 3/4. So it is 5 1/2. 2 1/2 is 5. 2 3/4 is 5 1/2, and then 5 8. So that's my center. I'm going to glue on another tab. And center it over that little mark. Like that. And then I've taken another one of her digital images, and now this was a little wider. I just chopped a little bit off the bottom and made it fit onto the brown card. And then, oh, I'm going to round my corners out. And I am going to distress this card. I will do that in a moment. And then this is just going to sit on here, and I'm going to use my photo corners. And I always do the top two first. And move it up just a tiny bit from where you want it. Push them down, and then you're going to pull your card down out of the photo corners by about 1/8 of an inch, and then you're going to add your two bottom ones. You want to leave a little bit of room so that you can pull your card out. Sorry, I'm probably out of the... Put that on there like that and push it down. So there's that one there. And again, you can take that out and write on the back of the brown card, and then you can write on the full journaling card. And I will distress the edges of this, so I will take my little card out. So you can write on the back of that. You can add some paper to the back of that, or use a white gel pen. Just going to add some quick distressing to the edges. Like that. Let's do the other side. Like that. Let's put our card back in. And there is our journaling card for in this pocket. And we can now put this guy in. He should be dry. Yeah, I think I'm going to see if I can add a little thumb notch to these, because they're hard to get into. Let's see. See if I can do it with this. Here we go. That's a little better. Now you can see when you're putting it in. There. So that one flips closed. And then on the back, I'm going to add, let me just add this little thumb punch. There we go. Just so you can get the card in there with it. Whoops, I want the card facing forward. Okay. And then on the back, I've decided to use, I really wanted to use this one on the back. So I just taken the little scrap piece of that background paper, the musical notes that I used on the inside here. And I'm just going to glue the butterfly picture to that. To that piece there, like that. And then when I add it to the back cover, it'll pop a little bit. And then we'll just glue this piece on. sure it's straight. So there we go. We've got our lace on the side, our little book plate, our front cover, our little tag here, another pocket there. I'm thinking of putting something here. I haven't decided yet. And then this journaling card to cover of your journal with some lace. Another tab and a pocket there. Tab and a pocket there. And you can add another small tag in there. I've got some of these smaller tags here. I can add some more of those in there. And then this one with this paper, and then your other one there. So I'm going to figure out what to add onto the inside there as well. And then we have to come up with a closure for this one. And I think I might just do an elastic that you can wrap around and take off. Because really, you can't put an eyelet here because you won't be able to flip your book out. I don't think I could probably put one there actually. An elastic coming out the back here, an eyelet, and then the elastic can come out and you can wrap it around. So I think I might do that. And I'm going to use brown elastic. Where's my elastic? Here. And I'm going to use brown. I think that will be pretty. Yeah, I think that's what I will do. And then I have these little butterfly charms. I will add a butterfly charm to the elastic. Yeah. So we'll do that as well. So that will be the closure, and I'll have a little butterfly charm hanging from it. I think that's really pretty. So that again is using the butterfly ephemera kit. It comes with background papers and then all the little journaling cards, and it's Stacy Beltz, B-E-L-T-Z, and she's on Etsy, StacyStories. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will have some pictures of this on my YouTube channel as well. That's it, and I will put the link to Stacy's shop below, and also a link to my video showing you how I make my envelope journals. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.